and enchant us with your speech. And let's put our hands together for Rose Handler.
Thank you. It's really a great privilege for me to be here, and I was enjoying. I didn't want to join because I sweat probably 3 times, and she was knowing that I'm going to be the next speaker. I didn't want to be in the camera with all my clothes wet. I know we're celebrating life today, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be decent in front of you here. Thank you. Yes, my name is Rose Cathy, and I've known Ling for not that long, but the first time I met her, it was just a great energy around her. And we started talking about this event, and here we are today. And with what was happening earlier, I think it gives me a great transition. We are celebrating life today, and the first thing that I want all of you to do is really, either you turn around or you say to yourself, I am very happy to be alive today.
I am very happy to be alive today.
Well, you have to say it as if you mean it. And I'm grateful and proud for what I have achieved so far.
And I'm grateful for what I've achieved so far.
But the best is yet to come. Now that part, I really want you to say it loud, as if you mean it and you believe it and you want it.
The best is yet
to come. Well, my story, I wrote a book, Going from Homeless to CEO. The book is behind there, but you can also find it on Amazon, Indigo, and all over the place on the internet. My story, the book is really about my story. And it's one of those stories that people might think that it comes once in a while, but actually it doesn't. It happened to a lot of people. And every single one of you, every single person sitting here probably has a story, a very powerful story that can change lives, that can impact people. But the only difference between you and myself here is because I did choose to share my story. And you might think that, because I get that question a lot, it's like, when was that? Yes, it was like 16 years ago. 15 years ago, because my daughter is 15 now. And the beautiful part of that's my daughter, the girl that you saw at the entrance, sitting there. I find myself homeless, yes, not that I didn't prepare. I had a very good job at Royal Bank, and I was pregnant. I was preparing to give birth. It was my firstborn, with all the what all comes with having your first baby. I prepare everything, save money, putting money aside, and I had somebody I was having the baby with. And trusting very much, like we all usually do, I was giving the money to go buy this and buy that, but all I was getting back, it was just a little story. So to make the story short, the very same day I was going to the hospital because I was 3 weeks overdue, and the doctor called me, asked me to show up at the hospital because they couldn't wait any longer. Just when I was about to get outside, I find an eviction note on my door from the sheriff. And the note is saying that I don't have home. That was something kind of bizarre. I went to the hospital. My first reaction was to ignore it. But something told me that when you see a note signed by a sheriff, you better give them a call and find out what's going on. But you know that when you get a note from a sheriff, that means that there was a process way before. So I wasn't even aware of the process to get to the point where they made a decision. So I lost my home. But right after I had a baby, now I was about to get out of the hospital. Then I find out that not only I lost my home, but my bank account was empty. So I end up with nothing. I see your face is going, yeah, you might think that that's the worst thing that can happen to somebody, right? Yes, I was homeless. And luckily, I am here in this beautiful country called Canada, where there are some resources outside, and one of them is a shelter, a homeless shelter. You would think that being in a homeless shelter is a really degrading thing, a bad thing, that's the worst thing that can happen to somebody. But yes, I was there, and to these days, my whole book is to talk about being in a shelter, how that was a blessing to me. And as we're celebrating life today, what I wanted to bring you to is the art of counting our blessings. Because my book, the title is No Excuse. Because in life, most of the time, we go through challenges. We go through, I don't know what, and I'm sure that every single one of you, no matter how bright you look today, no matter how smiley you are sitting there, if we look deeper, every single person is going through something today. There is a challenge that you have today. And not long ago as yesterday, there was one comment that was on the Facebook of the event that drew my attention. The lady was saying, oh, well, you know, with the flood that happened, the TTC issue, I've had enough of those things, and so I don't think that I'm going to show up. I look at it, I was tempted to comment, and I said, okay, leave it alone. Using the advice that Marian was sharing earlier, I say, just leave it alone, leave it there. But this is what goes on in our lives. Every single day we have the power and the ability to do something. But sometimes just that decision, the thinking, the mindset we get into, and sometimes it can stop us, sometimes it can put us completely in a different path. And sometimes we just end up being completely away from all the blessings that we could do, all the changes that we could bring in on this world, and all the great things that we can achieve. Why I'm saying that? I'm saying that because before then, yes, I wanted to go in business. But before I ended up in shelter, she mentioned that I'm president of Bilingual Link. Bilingual Link is a company that is in HR. We're not a placement agency, but we offer tools to connect employers and job seekers. As I'm standing here, I'm always proud, and I usually boast about it everywhere, because sometimes you need to be proud of the achievement that you have. People sometimes tend to forget to be proud of that. And I'm proud that as I'm standing here, over 30,000 people have found work or changed their life from the services or through the services that I offer. But would you think that a lot of those people, they don't know that that whole idea that changed their life started in a homeless shelter? Because it's while I was sitting in a homeless shelter, that's when I had a baby in my hand. And then I thought, okay, here I am. My mom always told me that I was born to achieve greatness. But when you're sitting in a homeless shelter, I can tell you that that's not what comes through your mind. You cannot see greatness there if you don't look deeper. And where you have to look, of course, it's not in a homeless shelter, because around you, all you see is misery. All you see is hardship. All you see is people going through so many things. But it's when you dig deeper inside of you, you find something there that you can grab and then start from there. And yes, what I find there, oh, she's taking pictures. What I find down there, yes, I have my mom. You were born to achieve greatness. That was playing in my head.
She warned me about her.
Yes, so I had my mom a sentence in my head telling me all the time that I was born to achieve greatness. But where do I start to achieve greatness if you have zero money in your bank account, you don't have anywhere to go, and you have a baby in your hand, and you are alone? Because just 2 weeks before I was there, I didn't think that I had somebody in my life. In my head, I had money in my bank account, and I have a roof that I decorated, and then I set up. It was beautiful, but all of a sudden I have nothing. I need to start from somewhere. And it's just digging inside that I started looking. And yes, in my book I shared the story of how I started a business. It's because there was in a dusty little room in that shelter, there were books that were sitting there. Because one day I had to sit there to breastfeed my child. And I found out that there is a book that was helping to structure business, how you can start. It wasn't a business plan, but just how you can structure. And I started reading it and applying every single thing that the book was teaching. And from there, I got my first contract from that shelter, and then I never looked back. And it's something that I like to share all the time. Why? Because sometimes when I see people, I do a lot of coaching, a lot of consulting. And usually people come to me with a lot of ideas. There are a lot of things that they want to achieve, but they always think that they need millions. They need hundreds of thousands of dollars to do whatever they want to do. And I always tell them, no. All you need is you, your ideas. And because sometimes we tend to take for granted what we have. And what we have, the biggest resource that we'll ever have is ourselves. And they always say that you don't know what you have until you lose it. And you don't know what you can do until you try, until you start. And when I say that the biggest resource that we have is ourselves, it's really not a joke, and it's real. If I can challenge you now, all of you, if you can raise your right hand, do this. And raise your left hand. Do that. What is the difference? Did you guys notice any difference between you and myself? Yeah. When you raise the left hand?
The opposite side.
Okay, mine can't move. Because yes, I started this business that when I'm sitting here, I say that over 30,000 people that look at it this way. Let's say I wasn't even a homeless shelter, just look at me. I'm somebody like she introduced me who came to Canada in '93. It took somebody who came from a little village. When I say macaque, who, any one of you have ever heard of it?
What's it called?
Macaque. See? When I say Cameroon, does that ring a bell? When I say Africa, then you say yes. But imagine that it took a little girl from macaque to end up in Canada for 30,000 people to have jobs or improve their life financially.